this isn't something that perhaps people have thought about as we see these laws restricting abortions kind of move across the country. First, walk us through how state abortion bans are impacting medical students.
There's a number of different ways in which they're impacting medical students. Some are in the fact that there are fewer and fewer teaching hospitals in these states that are allowed to actually practice abortion. I mean, as we've seen, the facilities that perform abortions contract over many years now. That takes away basically opportunities for medical students and residents to go and train at these facilities. But then we've also seen things like the ban that you just mentioned in Idaho. One of the concerns that students there have is whether or not they can actually learn these procedures. So we've had instances where professors in Washington state are doing lectures on both contraception and abortion via Zoom in order to avoid any miscommunication about whether or not these students are learning something that they shouldn't be learning.
Yeah, and abortion training in American medical schools is already scarce. Talk about that.
Well, it is actually required. So the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists requires any teaching university or even Catholic-owned hospital that provides a residency program to ensure that OBGYNs in residency programs get training on abortion care. So if they can't provide it themselves at their own facilities, they have to provide a way for these students to either get it in other states or at other facilities. But you can imagine if you're in Texas right now, your opportunity to do that has really shrunk. I mean, the 6 weeks ban has obviously forced a lot of women to go out of Texas to get abortions or turn to medication abortions. So those are fewer and fewer opportunities, in a sense, for both medical students and residents to then actually get the hands-on training, the practical training that they need when they go out into their careers to become OBGYNs.
Yeah, and as you say, that's a part of their training that is required. So that is a conundrum. So let's talk about the fact that some states want to ban abortions beyond their borders. What does that mean for medical agencies?
Well, so if, for instance, if you're in the state of Missouri, which there's been a law that's been introduced there that would not only ban abortions inside Missouri, but it would prevent any person who's a resident of Missouri from going to another state to have an abortion. Right now in Missouri, there's only one clinic that performs abortions. There's only one medical school in the entire state that actually at least enables students to get training in abortion care. Those students typically go across the border to Illinois, where there are fewer restrictions. So the concern, of course, is that if there's a state law that prevents Missouri women from traveling outside the state to go, say, across to Illinois, anyone who is seen as enabling that care, that could be medical students or residents who are going to Illinois to perform these procedures in an Illinois clinic, could conceivably would be held liable.
And you've also reported that banning abortion training could make students less skilled at other obstetric procedures. What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, the reality is that many pregnancies don't end well. There might be an ectopic pregnancy, there might be what's considered a pregnancy in demise, there might be a miscarriage. These things are very frequent. And it used to be that most OBGYNs would handle these situations in their offices. But if you're in the state of Tennessee or Alabama or Mississippi, even if you have a pregnancy in demise, it's very difficult to find an OBGYN that will end a pregnancy, even in the case of a woman's life being threatened. And so what happens is, just with any other kind of procedure, whether it's some kind of heart surgery or lung surgery, anything. I mean, the more a physician does a procedure, the better they become at it. So if you have this case, like say in the state of Mississippi, where you only have one place that is doing abortions, if you are a woman who wants to carry on her pregnancy, but your pregnancy is in demise and you go to your regular OBGYN, it is very unlikely that OBGYN will have a lot of practical experience, at least over the last 5, even 10 years of doing abortions. So it's just simply a matter of, especially if you look out post the Supreme Court decision on the Mississippi case, if you have a situation where 26 states are going to ban abortions, those are tens of thousands of obstetricians and gynecologists who will no longer perform abortions and won't have the practice to know how to do them when they actually have to.
Very insightful information. We really appreciate you coming on. Sarah Varney, reporter for Kaiser Health News. Thank you so much, Sarah.
That was my pleasure.